Thank you, everyone, for joining me again today with the True North podcast to creating new realities through cosmic consciousness. I am here today with Debbie Solaris, and I'm very excited to talk to her and share what her work is all about and how she'll be coming to Mount Shasta this July. Debbie, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about how you, I know there's so much to you in your background. What started you on your spiritual path? Tell me a little bit more about the start of your spirituality as you were growing up.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. I think on some level there might have been interaction with interdimensional beings because I do remember in my childhood there was missing time. I don't remember a whole lot about my childhood except for maybe I was a military brat, so we traveled all around the world. So I remembered a lot of that, but it seems like during times where things were pretty settled, I don't remember a whole lot. And I'm somebody that has like an elephantine memory. Like I remember dates and details, and I'm one of those people that probably would do well on trivia games, but I don't remember my childhood that much. And I think it was because there was a lot of interdimensional things going on, even though I don't necessarily remember. I would say that's pretty common for, I think, a lot of light workers and starseeds, where I've done a lot of Akashic readings for quite a few clients throughout the years, and it seems like there's always this key element of, "Oh, I feel like I've been abducted, but I don't remember anything," and it usually happens in childhood between, I would say, between 5 and 7 years of age. That seems to be the most common. Sometimes a little older, like sometimes I've heard of people even as old as 12, but it's usually at a younger age. But, fast forwarding to my adulthood, I was not into spirituality at all. I mean, I was pretty much a 3D gal. I have a background in science. I worked in the environmental health field for a lot of years, and before that, I was actually active duty Navy. So I was stationed in California and Hawaii for much of my enlistment, and then got out and worked in the environmental field for, well, I would say quite a few number of years. And then I did take a brief foray into IT work. So I worked for 2 or 3 IT companies during the, I would say, early 2000s so I I have a, really strong background in science and just wasn't into this kind of thing. And I didn't really get exposed to it until I started dating my now husband. He was into the paranormal, and he would read a lot of magazines and books about the paranormal, UFOs, ETs, and I thought that was weird. I mean, I thought it was weird.
I love
I
it.
was just like, "What is my boo reading about?" So, what
Is
is
this a
this
red
stuff?
flag? Yeah.
And I was raised Roman Catholic, so we just didn't talk about ETs, in
Yeah.
my house, in my, in my immediate family household,
Mhm.
so I was getting a little bit exposure that way, but I would say things really started happening around 2012. I had not just one, but two extraterrestrial contact experiences where
Mm.
I was actually on board an Arcturian starship. I mean, it
Oh,
was it was definitely amazing. I've never experienced anything like that before in my life, and it was life-changing. It's one of those experiences you come out of knowing that your life is never gonna be the same, that something extraordinary had happened, and that, you go from being totally asleep to being totally awake the next day. That's pretty crazy. And then I'm not gonna get too much into the details of that only because we have limited time on your podcast here, but if people are interested in my story, they can certainly, look me up on my website, other venues, particularly Gaia. If you're a Gaia subscriber, you can definitely hear all about my story. But since that awakening experience where I actually encountered extraterrestrial beings in real time, it was extraordinary. I was on board starships with extremely advanced technology. From there, I found myself starting to have a lot of extrasensory perceptive type of abilities starting to come online. So all of a sudden, even after my two experiences, I was finding I was downloading massive amounts of galactic information. I was seeing UFOs all the time, even telepathically communicating with them. I
Wow.
was also having interdimensional travels, where I was shifting in and out of dimensions, encountering Pleiadian beings on the highway. I mean, it's like all these
Oh,
crazy experiences, and then eventually it led me to go on a big self-discovery tour of just taking every spiritual class, reading all the spiritual books I can get my hands on, and then I was taking all these classes, and I started taking Akashic reading classes. And that's what led me to work with the Akashic Records. Was I didn't set out to do that. It was kind of like just in the series of all these trainings I was doing, it eventually led me to that, which is I think what I'm most known for in addition to being a galactic historian. And I've done a multitude of Akashic readings. I would say thousands and thousands in the last 12 years. And then I've also trained quite a few people on how to read the Galactic Akashic records. So that's where I'm at this point.
yeah, absolutely. What a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, as we had more time, like it brings up so many questions about other people's experiences when they were younger, if it meant that or how to dissect that. I know that I have some gaps in my childhood memory, so I would be fascinated to pick your brain more about that. And the Akashic
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me, about I think that's probably one of the reasons why people will book an Akashic reading with me because they wanna know what happened in the past, or they wanna know what they're connected with, who's their soul family. So it's quite fascinating, that we can access this information that's not totally lost
Yeah,
to poor memory or forgetfulness, or we all go through this veil of forgetfulness here on planet Earth.
absolutely. Part of the school of Earth, right?
Yeah.
And that was something I was gonna ask you too. So for clients and for people who want to have access to past lives, you offer Akashic records then?
I do, but it's limited because my schedule is so busy, and I have, I think, 2,500 people on my wait list, and it's, my assistant and I, we're just trying to get people booked, but I mean, between my busy schedule, it's very, very limited, but I do, yeah, you're right. I do still offer readings. I'm probably going to be phasing out of them within the next year or so.
Mhm.
So, I would just tell people, if you're interested, reach out to us, but I can't guarantee that you'll get a reading with me at this point.
Yeah.
It's just it's been hit and miss almost. Not through I mean, we do our best, but it's just, limited time and limited slots. So, but yeah, I do still do readings.
Yeah, beautiful. And imagine like the people that you've trained, they know your technique and your way of doing it.
Oh,
So it's a
absolutely.
way of spreading your legacy.
Yeah, yeah, we do have a Galactic Akashic Readers directory on my website, so if you don't wanna wait to have a reading with me, because the time, honestly, for some people has been years to get on my schedule. So, if you don't wanna wait that long, I would highly recommend checking out the other my students on my directory. There's, I think, at least 50 people listed there right now, all parts of the world, and I'm sure you can find somebody that will do, fantastic reading for you. So there are other options.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I will make sure to put that link down below for anyone who's
Yeah,
listening.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to ask, have you been to Mount Shasta before?
No, I have not.
Oh, you are in for a treat.
Yeah,
Like,
I have not, and I was so super excited because I feel like this year I'm getting reconnected with all the Lemurian
mhm.
vantage points, because I'm also going to Hawaii before. Yeah, so we're activating the Lemurian frequencies throughout this part of the world. I feel like all these locations I'm going to have some sort of Lemurian connection.
Absolutely. And I get chills
Yeah.
even people mention the word Lemuria.
Yeah, I know. We all love Lemuria.
This entire past year, I've been on a journey going around the Pacific. I've been to Fiji. I went to Hawaii this year. I had a retreat scheduled for Easter Island, which is like kind of the mecca for a lot of Lemurian stuff, but it didn't. We had to reschedule. But it's amazing. Like people talk about Lemuria, and it can be a very intellectual thing, but for when you experience the energy of it, and when you're
Mhm.
there, and when you're here, and when you're going to be in Hawaii, and imagine you have obviously felt this before, but it's such an immersion into this different frequency and way of being.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Mount Shasta is like literally like a couple trees, and then it's like right there. So I'm blasted all day with this energy.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like, what I would love for you to speak to, if you've had this experience of, like, this Lemurian energy, the higher frequencies of how it refines us as we cleanse our psyche and cleanse our own light body with these frequencies. Do you have any experience, or can you speak to that a little bit in your experience?
Yeah, I feel like it activates us to our higher gifts, um and it's not to say that you can't access your gifts in, Reading, Pennsylvania or, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm not trying to, implicate that you have to be at these locations, but I would say it's a lot easier,
Great.
because the frequencies are so high. I live in a high frequency area in Colorado. I consider
Mhm.
Colorado pretty high frequency,
I
and
do too.
a lot of it has to do with all the crystal in the mountain. We have a
Yeah.
lot of quartz, the Rocky Mountains. And so it does carry this higher frequency. And so when I travel, say, to the East Coast of the United States, it feels more dense, it feels like it's harder to access your psychic abilities. Whereas if you go to some place like Hawaii or New Zealand or Mount Shasta, you do activate certain abilities within yourself, and then you're finding it's easier to connect. It's easier to connect with the higher realm, with the higher interdimensional beings, with maybe even your higher self, so extraterrestrial beings. I know in Mount Shasta there's been many accounts of people interacting with extraterrestrial beings, with cryptids like Sasquatch and some of the other, inner earth beings, even elemental beings, so it just provides that easier access.
Yeah, and it's, and to speak to your point too, it's not I feel like in these higher frequency areas, it just is a clearer transmission of that. So it's
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, not that one place is higher in frequency or lower, but, like, it's just there's less interference, so we can access them. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's certain locations like this that also carries vortexes and portals that
Mhm.
enables us to have, like, this shortcut with these, with a little bit more clarity and efficiency, to connect with these areas.
Yeah, beautiful. I've long thought about moving to if I was gonna move anywhere in the States again. I've lived in Sedona, I've lived in Dallas. Dallas, I wouldn't recommend necessarily if you're into
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Dallas, yeah, I don't know about
the
Dallas.
concrete jungle, yeah. But I've looked at Boulder and some places right outside of Denver. Are you in Denver?
I'm just south of Denver. I'm in a little town. It's not that little anymore. It's actually grown quite a bit, but it's called Castle Rock. And it's
Oh.
it's kind of like a gateway. It's
Mhm.
an old railroad town. So there's a lot of like ley lines and frequencies running through. So it's kind of an interesting space. Um, but it's beautiful here, it's a lot of open space, and, you don't feel like you're in the city, you feel like you're out, you know in a space where you can just, have trees, and, you see the front range, so it's lovely.
Yeah, nature makes such a difference for these
Yeah,
transmissions.
it does. Yeah.
Mhm. So when you, will be here for the Angelic Conference, so excited to have you here.
Yeah.
What will you be sharing in your talk with the, community?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I actually have some notes here because I don't remember everything because 'cause I'm old. I'm probably older than you, so I'm old. So, I don't remember everything, but I'm gonna be talking about the Galactic Elohim. So, these are the architects of the angelic realm and the cosmic family lineages and how they interact with extraterrestrial beings and what their how are they known to be the founder races? Because everything actually in this universe does go back to the Elohim. Who are
Mhm.
they? Were they fallen angels, which a lot of people think that's what they are? And that I don't agree with that. They're not fallen angels. And we're going to get more specific into the different color rays of the Elohim, what that represents, what energies, how they connect with Christ consciousness, and how are they the luminous architects of our physical reality in this universe. So these were beings that seeded star systems, angelic orders, and soul lineages. So they were the ones that created the oversoul groups that pretty much all of us in this reality came from originally. At some point, there was oversoul groups that were assigned to certain star systems, and then there was certain star systems that were considered to be the royal stars, such as Formahalt. I think that's in Aquarius or close to Aquarius, and then there was Regulus and Leo, Antares and Scorpio, and then of course Aldebaran and Taurus. So what was the purpose of these locations, and how were they connected with angelic family groups? So there are angelic beings, for instance, Archangel Michael is very aligned with Aldebaran. Why was that the case? And then, how these angelic beings interface with galactic civilizations, and what does that mean for our evolution now? So how do we evolve, from these connections? Because I wouldn't say it's across the board, but I would say almost every person I've done an Akashic reading for have an angelic connection. They either have an angelic guide or they have some connection with some angelic group. And contrary to what a lot of people believe, a lot of us have a multitude of guides. I mean, we have
Thank you
a
for saying.
lot of guides,
Mhm.
a lot. We have a lot of support in this reality, more so than we even realize. So how do you embody all this? How do you take it on? How do you use it to propel you to your next spiritual level?
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm going to be talking about. So it's pretty expansive.
Yeah. Yeah. And how fascinating. Like it's such a big topic and there is a lot of controversy
Yeah.
or discussion, conversation about who they were, the Elohim, and why we're even here and why we were seated here. I'm a longtime fan. Earlier in my life, my dad was too, of David Icke and talking about
Hmm.
the reptilian agenda and all of that. And a lot of the conspiracy theories, you can kind of go down some very strange rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And when you think about like if we were seated by an angelic race versus this reptilian and we weren't slave race to this reptilian agenda, then it's like what's really the purpose of what we're doing here and how can we use that, like you said, to support our own evolution and then the stewardship of the new earth that's coming, or the original blueprint of the earth, I should
Oh,
say.
absolutely. Yeah, no, and maybe both is true. Maybe we are experiencing this duality consciousness on purpose here in this planet, so
Mhm.
we we could be a slave race, but then at the same time we're also sovereign beings. So,
Mhm. Well,
I
spiritual
think it's
beings.
just an evolution, where we get out of this sense of separation and reconnect to our true divinity. And I think all of us are on that journey.
Yes. I love that you said that because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And no matter
Mhm.
what the reality, past or future of why we're physically incarnated here, our soul is divine and our soul comes from source. And to have
Absolutely.
mastery over that versus any narrative of what it all meant, but like that sovereignty. And that's something that is really important for a lot of spiritual teachers and leaders to really lean into is like, no matter what, we are sovereign and we have the power of discernment and choice.
Oh, absolutely. And I do believe that we're captains of our own destiny, that we have
Yeah.
the power to choose what kind of reality we want to create. So,
Mhm.
do we want to remain slaves and stay in the victim mentality, or do we want to rise above it and become true sovereign beings? I'm picking number two. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm
So
going with the
weird.
second option.
Yeah. Doors are wide open. The ark is open. Come on.
Exactly, yeah, and
Beautiful.
I think a lot of us are trying to bring as many people as possible to that second option,
Yeah.
so, I remember telling my husband, like, when I first became awakened that that was my goal was I was gonna we're gonna create 5D on Earth, and I was gonna bring as many people as possible to
Mhm.
5D, and that we're all gonna ascend together, and I still consider that my mission today, that, beyond, the Akashic readings and, the starseed lineages that, a lot of people like to ask me about. My main purpose is to reconnect us with our divinity, with our, true cosmic selves, because
Mhm.
that's really what's truly important.
Amen. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And even by you sharing your truth and sharing your knowledge, that is a transmission in and of itself. And so you're affecting people, even if they don't know that that's part of what you're doing, because that's your intention inside.
Yeah.
So you're doing it, whether it's like consciously at the time or not, like it's just part of
Right.
who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, though, thank you for saying that. No, that is what I consider my true mission, and I'm looking forward to, wrapping up this mission here on Earth. I'll be here for a long time, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, but I'm looking forward to wrapping it up so we can move on to Andromeda or to other parts of the galaxy that, are a
Less
little bit
crime.
higher vibrational, but yeah, it'll be but in the meantime, this is a beautiful planet. I'm very honored to be here. I'm honored to be here with you and with all the other light workers. I'm excited to, visit for the first time Mount Shasta. I'm sure it'll be
Mm.
very activating and transformational for a lot of us. And, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I can't wait to meet you and give you a hug in person. I just love your presence and your energy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast. This is
Yeah.
it's a quickie, but it's a good one. It's good. We talked about some good topics.
Yeah, beautiful. So
Yeah.
thank you again. And
Thank
everyone,
you.
please be sure to check the links below to read more about Debbie and her work and the directory and get some Akashic record readings. And thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Take care.